Listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
What makes your skin crawl? No matter how absurd, I want to know.
Tails without fur on them, such as rats or opossums.
I'm Larry Mullins, the host of a new podcast called Your Weirdest Fears. You send me your fear.
I'm just so weirded out about the texture and how they can just move around and flop.
And then I go to the experts to learn how to overcome them. Listen and subscribe to Your Weirdest Fears on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts from.
We're coming to you live from the Rocket Mortgage Studios. Need to know what it takes for a home to fit your budget and your family? Rocket can. It's Thursday, which means Week 16 of the NFL kicking off tonight, Perloff. It's going to be, well, kind of gross out.
Yeah.
It's going to be gross, and it's going to be two of the top two quarterbacks, obviously, from the 2021 draft, which is interesting. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence on a much better trajectory right now than Zach Wilson, but both teams are vying for a playoff spot. I think this is interesting tonight. You don't.
No, I mean, I think it's going to be ugly. I don't think – I'd say the Jags are in the top half of the league Q rating. I'd say the Jets are in the bottom 10. I'll bet you if you put a national game, like say you put the Jets, Colts.
Yeah, well.
That's a 0-0.
Well, the Colts right now, it's like the only thing interesting about the Colts is seeing like how much of a lead can they possibly blow.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'd be shocked if there's any national interest in the Jets. I would not think this is going to be one of the highest rated games for Amazon.
Well, you might have an interest if you are a Patriots fan, if you're a Dolphins fan, if you're a Chargers fan, if you're another AFC wildcard team who's trying to get in.
Now you're talking about mythical creatures. You said Chargers fans.
Oh, come on. There's more Chargers fans than Rams fans.
No, that's not true. There's way more Rams. There's no Chargers fans.
But there's no Rams fans.
There are some Rams fans from at least when they were originally there. All the Chargers fans in San Diego, what I've been told is they grew to hate the team immediately. They were so mad at the organization. They left the team. And there's just zero fans in L.A., so they have nothing. They're working.
Well, I thought the Rams fans also disappointed the St. Louis fans so much when they left that all those people turned against them too.
Right, but at least they had the original Rams fans.
Yeah, like the Eric Dickerson years, but like
I just think
that was a long time ago.
I think that Rams also have some institutional fandom. I just don't. There's definitely
they have
no
to do a silent count when the 49ers are in town for a regular season game.
Do you know any Chargers fans?
I do.
Get out of
I swear to you, I do. You can look him up.
Are they from San Diego or LA?
His name's Eric Stengel, and he's the former showrunner of David Letterman. Sorry to flex. You asked. I wasn't trying to name drop there.
How did he become a Chargers fan?
He just is.
Okay.
Big Dan Fouts guy.
Because people in San Diego can't stand that team, which is it's kind of funny. They actively root against the Chargers or whatever. There's no way.
You don't think there's people who are interested in whether Justin Herbert is going to make the playoffs?
I think the Chargers have some national buzz, but I don't think they have any fans.
Well, I guess both teams got to go with a silent count.
But
at
also,
times.
too, I can't think of a more boring team than the Jets because they don't generate any offense. They'll win 20-17 because the defense kicks butt. That's exactly the formula that people are not tuning in for.
Well, but you don't think people are interested in Sauce Gardner having this great year? And
people are
whether Zach Wilson's a bust?
People are dying to see a cornerback who name literally will not come up the entire game because he doesn't get one
tonight.
back.
They might not. That's not his fault though. That's just the Mother Nature.
I think there are zero neutral fans in America tuning in for Sauce Gardner. Why would there be?
All right. Well, maybe it's
people tune in for Patrick Mahomes. People tune in for Tyreek Hill.
They're going to
Justin Herbert.
How about Trevor Lawrence? They're going to tune in for Trevor Lawrence.
No, the Jags have some buzz. Jags have some buzz.
I really want the Jags
mainly
to make
Trevor
the playoffs.
Lawrence. Yeah, but no, there's nothing. The Jets are made a deal with the devil. They're going to win boring if they're going to win, right? I mean, there's no way.
Is that a deal with the devil?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're not going to. They're going to win a little bit like the Rex Ryan teams won, where defense is going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, this team is allergic to finding a quarterback. Like, they just can't do it.
No.
You might as well just build up the defense and just try to find a game manager. And Zach Wilson couldn't even be that.
Yeah, it's not to me. It's not the kind of popular football like the Chiefs are. They're the anti-Chiefs.
Style of play, I get it. But
like
I think
your Bills are a thrilling team.
And that's why they're on primetime all the time.
Yeah.
I think you underestimate. I think there are Chargers fans out there. I think there's more Chargers fans than Rams fans.
I think there are less Chargers fans than any fan base in the country. And I think Rams is probably third or fourth, but I think Chargers is the least loyal fan base there is.
So who do you think second least? Second
Rams,
worst?
Probably Rams.
Yeah, right. Ironically.
I could be totally wrong
share a
about
stadium.
that.
Well, that didn't take long.
Let's go,
855-212 for CBS. Daryl's in Oregon. Daryl, tell them they're Chargers fans.
Absolutely.
From
I've
where?
been a Charger fan from the San Diego Chargers. I was a fan when Dan Fouts was our quarterback, and I'm a fan now, even though they moved. I didn't like the move, but I'm not giving up on my team.
You like Dan Fouts because he's from Oregon? Is that what happened?
No, I like Dan Fouts because he was a good quarterback.
Okay.
Good enough.
And
Okay.
I'm from California originally. Don't tell anybody, but anyway, I'm now an Oregonian, and there are L.A. Chargers fans everywhere. Trust me.
Listen, Daryl, I'm with you. It's Perloff who's being a hater.
There are a lot of Chargers fans, actually, but are there any in L.A.?
I'm sure. Look at the stadium. Look how full it was and how loud it was. Their last game.
Rooting against the Chargers.
No, they were not rooting against the Chargers. They were blue and yellow, light blue and yellow all over that stadium that were rooting for the Chargers.
Daryl, you got to adjust your TV set. That is just not what's happening.
No, yeah, I know that's what happened. I watched the game.
I think that Justin Herbert and how good he is, even though he hasn't made the playoffs yet, I think Justin Herbert has a lot of fans. Definitely in Oregon.
Nationally, he has a lot of fans. The media loves Justin Herbert.
Okay, well, don't you think in L.A. some people could bandwagon on? It's like
L.A. doesn't do that. They just, I don't know. I talked to friends at L.A. I just don't think L.A. is supporting their football teams right now.
I think there's as many fans for the Chargers as there is for the L.A. Rams.
Yeah, but I know, Daryl, that's not saying much.
Well, no, I think
thank you for the phone call. Appreciate your impassioned defense for Charger fans.
I do think the fact that the Rams were there at one point does make a difference, and the fact that they just won a Super Bowl, too. The Chargers have not made the playoffs, so I'd be surprised if there are more Chargers fans than Rams fans. I'm gonna ask my Twitter people. I have a big LA people on Twitter from the Dan Patrick Show.
Sure.
I just do not think. Come on,
you're going to ask them all right now.
The Rams are a much more prestigious franchise. That's just reality. They've been around a lot longer. The
Chargers haven't won. I get it. Eaton is in San Diego. Eaton, what are you going to back up Perloff here that there's no Charger fans?
There are no Charger fans.
What happened? I mean, I know what happened. They moved the team and everyone jumped off the bandwagon?
Even when they were here in San Diego and playing at Qualcomm Stadium, you could see just whether it was the Raiders or the Broncos or the Chiefs or really any NFL team, they were selling out Qualcomm Stadium. I mean, it was a sea of orange here when the Broncos would play, a sea of red when the Chiefs, black and silver when the Raiders were here. Everybody in San Diego just nobody cares about the Chargers. It's even gotten to the point where Joe Musgrove, a San Diego born and raised Padre pitcher, first one to throw a no-hitter, is a Chargers fan, and there's some people that resent him for that.
Oh no, that's ridiculous.
That's how bad it's gotten here. So
wait, can I ask you a question, Eaton? Is it because there's so many better things to do and the weather's nice, so like you have other options? Is that why no one's a fan before the move? Before the move,
I really think, there are better options, but I just think people got the sense that ownership wasn't putting into the team what the fans wanted and didn't really care about us. Like, they had every opportunity to build a new stadium, and
right.
Gene Spanos just dragged his feet the entire time, and San Diego got, they noticed that. So we're just like, all right, if you're not going to put anything into us, we're not going to put anything into you. So like, why would we continue to care? It was a relationship that deteriorated mutually on both sides pretty quickly.
And now they're tenants in the Rams stadium. And Eaton, thank you for the call. Appreciate that. Yeah. Also, the reason why I think there's also a lot of opposing fans in San Diego is if you are going to take one road trip with your friends, I'm going to San Diego.
To L.A. Oh, right. Are you back then?
Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
I know the weather's going to be nice. It's a cool trip.
But maybe that might be true. No, I don't think so. I think it's honestly, it really was. Have you ever been to that old Qualcomm? It was a disaster. It should have been torn down in 1979. I don't even know if it was built in 1979, but it was
1987,
as cookie cutter as you could humanly be. Yeah, he's right. Dean Spanos really unpopular.
Yep,
the entire city just revolted against Chargers. He's right. They actively root against him. So you're moving into L.A., a town that already has a rabid Dodger fandom, has the Lakers, has USC football. They have no chance. And I think the Rams are way ahead of them. Because the Rams, maybe I'm wrong, but the Rams have something there, some history there. The Chargers have nothing.
Brad's in San Diego. Hey, Brad.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing excellent.
So, I was a fan of the Chargers since 1970 when I moved there, and yes, that stadium was there. I burned my jersey 3 years ago. I hung on till Phil Rivers finished because I loved Rivers. But what Dean Spanos did to San Diego, and then now not even funding his parents' charities for $30 million a year, he is like gone. Everybody hates him.
Wow, Brad burned the jersey.
Hey,
and
Brad.
Whose jersey was it that you burned?
I burned my. It was the Rivers jersey. Sorry, let it go. Burned it. Burned it in my neighbor's yard who's a Bronco fan.
Brad, just because you're on, I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, I don't know if you have any idea. I'm getting a lot of tweets that the Raiders are more popular than both the Rams and the Chargers in L.A. Does that ring true?
Yeah. The Raiders were there for a while in L.A., and Raider fans are pretty rabid. We've gone to a couple of Raider games in Vegas, and those guys are just on
pretty rabid.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
I'll tell you what San Diego has, though. San Diego's a melting pot. One of them were military. So there's a lot of people with history, family, 3 generations back of a Packer fan that live here in San Diego.
Got it.
Right.
I think L.A. deals with that, too.
Totally.
I think L.A. deals with that because I think it's an industry town. People move there, to work in the industry, work in entertainment.
And Spanos' deal in L.A. is the worst deal, but I think he was betting that the Rams would still be bad, and then the Rams got good. And now he's stuck. He's like a redheaded stepchild that's not even wanted.
Oh, man, Brad. I mean, so extreme. The burning the jersey in the neighbor's yard who's a Broncos fan. Everything about that. True fan. He was.
Yeah, I've heard many stories.
I forgot to ask Brad who he picked up as a fan. Like, who is he with now? Because then you're like a free agent as a fan.
Yeah, with that weather, just go outside. You don't even need to watch.
Yeah, check it on Red Zone. Quickly, let's get to Willie. He's in Arizona. Willie, what's up?
All right. I've been a fan of the San Diego LA Chargers since I was 8 years old. I'm 51 now. And we have no fan base whatsoever. If you put 100 people in a room, I'll probably be the only Charger fan there. And that's because I liked the Bolt when I was a kid and I saw it in a commercial.
Way to be honest.
I got no fan base in San Diego and LA. You move us to Minnesota or anywhere, we won't have anybody. I'm sorry. We got with Stan Humphries, we got to the Super Bowl and we got creamed.
Yeah.
Willie, appreciate it. Although, and I appreciate the call, there are teams that would be dying just to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, I get you went there and you lost. What was that to the
Niners?
The Niners.
No,
yeah.
I don't think they wanted that Super Bowl trip. That was just sometimes your conference is really weak and you sneak through, and then Steve Young was waiting for them. I think they would have been fine going out in the conference around that time.
Oh man, 855-212-4CBS. Anyway, how did we get to that? The Jets, why this is important tonight?
Well,
Charger fans are going to be watching. That's how we got to it.
I think Jets-Jags is
How about Miami Dolphin fans would be interested in this?
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, this just strikes me as not an aesthetically pretty game. I think it's going to be ugly.
Well, I mean, it's gross out.
Also, the Jets, I think, want gross football. They want to make this ugly. They want to make it a fist fight in a phone booth. Isn't that the expression?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the Jets style play lends to this. This is not really going to be an entertaining game. It's going to be a dramatic game. It means a ton. It's a good game. But I don't think also the weather's going to take away the Zach Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence thing because no one's going to pass tonight.
You want to know what's funny? We all lose it over a snow game. People can't wait for the snow game. Everyone wants to play in Buffalo. How dare I suggest they should have a dome? You want Lambeau and you can see everybody's breath. Yet the weather and the rain game does nothing for anybody.
Why would anyone want to see a rain game?
I'm not
It's
saying
the
you have to
worst.
sit in a poncho.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, on TV, people love the snow game, but nobody cares about the rain game.
You know what rain game was kind of interesting? Remember the Niners and Bears early in the season?
Yeah, that was
That was
torrential.
insane. And
You need a
Trey
new
Lance
word.
got hurt that game.
Yeah.
But that was a little interesting. Because if you could slide like Terry Bradshaw on that famous clip, I don't know if you know that,
Yeah.
where he slides 20 feet in the rain, and a quarterback could take off like a slippery slide and gain yardage, then rain games would be back in. But they now mark you down from where you start the slide.
I know. I think if you're somebody who likes a snow game, you have to keep that same energy for a rain game.
Yeah, you're right. There are huge differences. But that's like real life. Everyone hates the rain,
I
and
know, but-
everybody loves the snow.
But you and I know the real truth because
No,
we live in the Northeast. We also hate the snow.
No, I love the snow.
You do?
I live in New York. I haven't driven a car regularly in years. So I like, you don't have to drive. Yeah, it's pretty. It's fun. Yeah, there's a giant difference. It's 40 and pouring and windy right now, and I do not want to leave the
Okay,
studio.
and for the people who are in San Diego and Arizona who are listening to us and all these amazing, nice, warm places, tell them what it looks like 3 days after the snowstorm.
Ugh, it's like black, brown snow and slushy, and you step in it, and it gets up to your knee with cold wetness.
There you go. There you go. 855-212-4CBS. And you wonder why I want to live in a warm weather place. 855-212-4227. Maggie and Perloff. See you. We've got our picks for tonight coming up. Also, the most hilarious thing we saw yesterday. It's too good. We'll bring that to you in just a moment. Don't move. More Maggie and Perloff right after this on CBS Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
So my biggest fear is there's going to be snakes in the toilet.
We're all afraid of that one strange thing. I'm Larry Mullins, the host of a new short 10-minute podcast called Your Weirdest Fears. We unpack where these fears come from
A rat climbed into my toilet.
and learn how to manage them. Listen and subscribe to Your Weirdest Fears on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
What makes your skin crawl? No matter how absurd, I want to know.
Tails without fur on them, such as rats or opossums.
I'm Larry Mullins, the host of a new podcast called Your Weirdest Fears. You send me your fear.
I'm just so weirded out about the texture and how they can just move around and flop.
And then I go to the experts to learn how to overcome them. Listen and subscribe to Your Weirdest Fears on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts from.
This season, for the first time, you can hear every Westwood One NFL broadcast stream live for free Mondays, Thursdays, Sunday nights, holiday triple headers, and every postseason game. Catch all the action on the Odyssey app, on WestwoodOneSports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports. It's all sponsored by AutoZone. Free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes AutoZone America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Okay. Back on Maggie and Perloff, we're talking about NFL fandom. Are there any Chargers fans out there is the question. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
We kind of backed into it just because we were talking about how important tonight's game is for other AFC teams. And I said, yeah, all the Charger fans are going to be tuned in. And you said there are no
What
Charger
fans? So, you know what's something interesting about NFL fandom? Why is it that the most popular teams are the Raiders, the Steelers, and #1, the Cowboys, the great teams of the 70s? The New England Patriots dominated the 2000s and the 2010s, and I don't think they're ever going to get a national fan base like those teams from the 70s and 80s, and I don't totally understand why. Maybe I'm wrong, too, but...
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Off the top of my head, I think that the dominance of the Patriots, I think, turned people off. I think Belichick turned people off. The cheating allegations, the Spygate, the Deflategate, all that stuff, the scandals, I think turned people off from the Patriots. And also, like, to be honest, and I don't mean offense by saying this, like, the country at large is never going to embrace Boston.
Big time. That's
Boston
absolutely part
sports
of it.
fans. Boston sports fans. I should say.
Yeah. I also think that the style of play, except for the year Randy Moss was there, was a little bit San Antonio Spurs-ish, slightly boring. A lot of 8-yard passes down the field. They weren't exactly.
But they were always in exciting Super Bowls. It was always one-score games.
Close games, but they weren't exactly Patrick Mahomes storming up and down the field.
Well,
how many passes of Kevin Falk can you take over the course of an 8-year span?
I know, a lot of James White.
There's a lot of dink and dunk football. It wasn't exactly the most entertaining style. They were tough. Disciplined. They used to be disciplined.
Yeah, I think Brady had the star power,
but
the
the
good
Steelers,
looks, the model wife.
The Steelers, and we haven't had a chance to say what a tragedy it was about Franco Harris. But the Steelers, even if you weren't alive for that, you have the images of the Immaculate Reception. You have these images of Terry Bradshaw throwing bombs in the Super Bowl to Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. There's something that seems magical about that, and maybe it's just nostalgia. I don't know. But whatever it is, I do not think that is translated for fans of the Los Angeles Chargers, Maggie.
Let's go to the phones again. 855-212-4CBS. Danny's in San Diego. Danny, you say the Chargers, you compare them to what?
So everyone here in San Diego that was a Chargers fan hates them. But the way that you hate that ex that you're not over. They are so... it's like you think about them way too much in this way that it's like, if one or two or three little things change, Spanos is out, they start making rumors about coming back to San Diego and, getting a new stadium, and that stuff's floating around here.
Interesting. So you said it's like an ex-girlfriend. So basically you guys are now kind of every once in a while you check the Facebook page to see the status, see what maybe new haircut, I don't know, does she have a kid now, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a Raiders fan. I inherited my team down here, but legitimately, it's if you really don't like this team the way you say you don't like, stop paying attention. It is this really weird energy where it's because we are we're desperate for a winner down here. You can see how much the city has embraced the Padres.
Yeah.
One of the previous callers said if there was this feeling of you were invested in us when you were here, they probably would still like the Chargers more if it felt more of a scenario thing. But because of how things happened, there's this weird animosity, but also if these things change, we take you back. It's very much that energy.
That's very funny, Danny, and I know that energy you're talking about where it's I'm done with you, but if you still want to get a drink sometime, then maybe, okay, you can convince me to do it.
But how would they take it? There's no way the fact that they're in L.A. and not San Diego, I don't know the scenario that they would take it back.
Well, yeah, unless maybe somehow, here's the vision, it'd be Spanos sells the team. Someone comes in who's a Steve Ballmer type, not him, but a Ballmer or Steve Cohen or someone where money is clearly no object. You build the new stadium, and you build the stadium in San Diego.
Yeah, well.
And maybe you bring them back. I have no idea.
That's not happening because the value of the team shot up when they moved to L.A. There's just a lot of value.
But they don't own their own stadium, though. So the value of the team is not going to be if, Dan Snyder sells.
Well, no, the value of the team of the Chargers, it didn't matter. It just went through the roof the second they moved down to L.A.
Really?
Yeah, L.A.'s huge.
No, I get it. Thank you, Perloff.
Yeah.
Were you a geography
major?
I
said that. I was yeah. Hey, did you know Los Angeles was big? They have traffic, too.
Is that right? How about Zach is in San Diego? Oh, Zach, hello.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, so I actually had a unique experience of being able to be a lifelong Charger fan in San Diego and then following them to Orange County area when they played in the soccer stadium. Not as a fan. As soon as they left San Diego, our whole family stopped rooting for them. However, one thing that I noticed being in Orange County for 4 years is that nobody cares about the Chargers at all. They're not even the 6th most popular football team in LA.
Jeez.
USC football, UCLA football. There's some high school teams that have bigger fan bases than the Chargers.
Those are big high school teams. That's actually a great point.
Yeah, and you are right. The one way that San Diego will take them back, and I think something that you said about all of the franchises that are popular in the NFL is they have quality ownership, owners that are committed to a city and committed to winning. similar to how Peter Seidler has done with the Padres.
Right.
And the city has really leaned into that, and I think it shows. I mean, we were like 3 or 4 in attendance in Major League Baseball, so the fans are here.
Yeah, they're here. You're right about that, because the Padres, and obviously they're so all in. I mean, really, Zach, and thank you for the call and explaining a lot of that to us. That was great. You can tell that the Padres fans are great fans.
Oh, yeah.
The playoffs were electric.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there were Chargers fans, but I think it was a Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens situation. There's a lot of bitterness.
You know, I think about this sometimes because obviously you guys know I'm a Bills fan, and the Bills have been rumored at times to leave.
Yeah.
And I thought about this, and I don't want to say I can't imagine not rooting for them, even if they were in a different city. Does that make sense? Like if all of a sudden Josh Allen was playing for the San Antonio Bills or whatever.
You wouldn't be mad? Well, you don't live in Buffalo.
Maybe that's true. Maybe because I don't live in Buffalo right now.
That's a hard one. That's really interesting.
But if it's the team, like I feel like I'm still going to be a fan. No, if I'm going to still be a fan of the players, even if they move, right?
I thought it was really interesting when Patriots fans followed Tom Brady down to Tampa Bay. Then you had to choose, or you try to kind of root for both. I thought that was a little weak, but yeah, I mean, you're right.
I mean, you spent 20 years with Tom, though. It's like he's part of the family at this point.
But do you still root for the Patriots? What if the Patriots were playing the Bucs? You have to choose. Not that happened.
I mean, that would be a rare.
But I love this idea that modern day is bigger than the L.A. Chargers.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like modern day or Cal Poly or something.
St. John Bosco.
Yeah, St. John Bosco. Even we live in New York City. We know those.
Yeah, Los
teams.
Alamitos with Malachi Nelson. There's so many big schools there. You're right. That's a great point.
How about Mike is in California? Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
It's going great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So I do have a feedback on the Chargers thing in a second, but I wanted to say I kind of think that you talked a few minutes ago about the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Steelers, and that national appeal as opposed to what you get from, the Patriots in the 90s and the 2000s. I think a lot of it was I can remember as a kid in the 70s and 80s that it seemed like Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football and the primetime games, it was always the Cowboys or the Raiders. That's who we grew up watching.
Yep.
And I think, with the advent of fantasy football and the advent of DirecTV and, all these different things where you can watch whatever you really want to watch now, and it's okay to root for a player more than a team like a Perloff does, that I think you're seeing more and more people shy away from that quote-unquote national brand and going more to the teams that they like. But those old-school teams will always be the ones that we grew up watching all the time.
Mike, it's such a great point, and we had this conversation a couple months ago, actually, about because if you grew up in the 70s and you were watching football, the Cowboys were such a big deal. But considering, if you're born in the year 1998 or 2000 or 2001, do the Cowboys still hold the same appeal? Because if you were born in the 80s like I was, the Cowboys were the thing in the 90s. So I could get why you still have a lot of fans. But they haven't been successul.
But they get a ton of games. No. They get a ton of primetime games because they're so popular.
Yeah, but now everybody can be primetime. Yeah. To Mike's point, you got DirecTV, you got Red Zone, you're watching everybody.
But also too, we all have the Cowboys network comes directly into our house, so it's the only it's the only team with its own network, right?
Yes.
It's got 4 letters.
Yes.
But also, to be fair though, there is a lot of buzz around that team. They have that beautiful stadium and the amazing things, and Jerry's very vocal and the star in the helmet. I think you could be 25 years old and still be a Cowboys fan. It might not be the same.
Down through the family.
It might not be the same, but they're exciting.
That's what I was going to say. I think a lot of those teams got passed down. Like we grew up Rams fan in our house. I'm a Saints fan. I boycotted the Rams when they moved away, just like my pops did. But we grew up watching those teams. The Cowboys were passed down through my mom's side of the family. Everybody's a Cowboys fan on that side, and none of us are from Texas.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of that also feeds into what you guys are talking about with the Chargers. I can remember going to San Diego, because I live a couple hours from San Diego, but you go to a sports bar, you go to San Diego and hang out. Even back in the 90s, it was not uncommon to see a million other jerseys in a sports bar besides the Chargers.
Right.
And I think that you had such an influx of the military over there, and the Chargers were so bad for so long. But I think a lot of local fans kind of gave up on the Chargers, and you had a lot of transplants coming from other places. And back then, the Padres weren't great, but they weren't bad. They were kind of mediocre and okay. But the Chargers really never gave anything.
Yeah.
And nobody ever could. I mean, why are you going to keep rooting for a team that always loses no matter what, especially if they're not regional attraction? Because half of San Diego is from someplace else and settles there after they get out of the military or after they move there from wherever they came from.
Got it.
So I think the Chargers always had a negative fan base to begin with, and then the Santos family didn't help, and then eventually people just kind of gave up on them.
You know, Mike, it's great. Thank you so much for that. And I think about some other places where it feels like it's not a very transient place, right? Like I think of Boston. Like there's a lot of just straight up people who were born and raised in Boston are never leaving Boston. I think about Philly like that. There's a lot of people in Philly who just love Philly, love being from Philly, and will never leave, right?
Oh, definitely. But the other thing, too, is Philly has 4 teams that have been there forever and are going to be there forever. There's never been any flirtation with moving. Maybe once. I remember somebody was going to move the Eagles to Arizona in 1987 or something. But yeah, I think there's stability to those franchises. Also, those 4 Boston teams, they're not going anywhere.
Right. I guess I'm trying to think of cities that I think of that are more transient versus cities that I feel like people are really entrenched.
Yeah, New York and Washington feel a little more transient.
Which is funny. I lived in Washington, D.C. I went to college there, and living there, it felt very transient. Yet, it did have this incredible history. It, at one point, was, the toughest season tickets to buy. Yeah, I mean, because it has a massive, massive suburban area, too. Yeah, it has Virginia and Maryland, and those people aren't as transient, and that's a wildly loyal fan base. What about Seattle? Like, I think of Seattle.
Very transient.
Really? Because I think of Seattle is kind of entrenched, too.
Yeah, they're entrenched. They're loyal fans, but I think a lot of people come and go from Seattle. Seattle's got like a little, in my mind, has a little Silicon Valley to it. You're right, it's not very transient, but L.A. is definitely coming
transient. I think of like, if you're in Detroit, I think you grow up in Detroit. You love being from Detroit. You live in Detroit.
I guess so, but you might get a job out of college with a company.
Yes, like any one individual person.
There's this guy, Ray, I know.
I was going to say. Did I just remind you of somebody?
Basically, his wife was from there and he had to move there. No, but I understand your point. But I do think the older team, if you have say Chicago Cubs, they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Cubs fan, you're sticking with the Cubs. I don't think you're going to go off of that.
I agree. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, coming up, we are going to give you our best bets for tonight's game, Jets and Jags. See you guys on the phones. Get back to that as well. So much to do here. Time for a CBS Sports Update. Here's Rich Ackerman.
The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
What's the strangest thing you're afraid of?
Tails without fur on them, such as rats or opossums.
I'm Larry Mullins, host of the podcast Your Weirdest Fears, where we dig into the crazy things you're afraid of. Everything from animal-people hybrids, people who get surgeries to look like an animal, to giant statues.
If I ever saw one of those giant statues, I probably would poop my pants.
Listen and subscribe on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast from.
The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
Back on Maggie and Perloff, we are frantically searching for a weather update in our own city right here.
I know, but there's no windows in our studio.
I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to tell. I felt like last week's big weather game, the Bills-Dolphins, was overhyped, to be honest, because I got a photo from my buddy Peter Schrager at 8 in the morning with a field that was covered in snow. Then I tuned in for the first quarter, and it looked like it was Bermuda. There wasn't an inch of precipitation anywhere.
I sure didn't feel like Bermuda.
And then Miami and Buffalo light up the scoreboard, killing my under bet by the middle of the third quarter. Then the snow came, and they couldn't score anymore. So I am nervous about what's going to happen tonight. I feel like I'm not so certain that this weather is going to ruin the game.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at some props for tonight. I mean, the Jags now, according to DraftKings, it's up to plus 2.5. Started at 2. So I'm going to take the points here. I just think this is pretty evenly matched team. There was an update from Connor Hughes from SNY, said that Quinnen Williams, the standout defensive lineman for the Jets, will play. That does change things a bit. I'm going to go with a couple things I like. Trevor Lawrence, the rushing yards total is set at 12.5. I'm going to take the over on that. Travis Etienne over 69.5 rush yards. I also like that over. And Michael Carter of the Jets, 25.5 rushing yards. I know Bam Knight has really taken over as the top running back there, but I like the 25.5. They don't trust Zach Wilson at all.
Yeah, I don't know if Travis Etienne wants any part of 40 degrees and raining. He strikes me as a very warm weather dude. Yeah, seriously, like he really is a Southern guy. I love him, and he's playing so well. It was great last week. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this whole thing grinds to a halt, and we see so little yards. I'm going under on everything.
Under on the total at 36.5?
Under on the total at 36.5. Here's an interesting one. 1.5 is the touchdown total for Trevor Lawrence. So can he throw 2 TDs in the rain tonight? He did it easy. He threw 4 last week.
Yep.
But I feel like they're going to have to
weather
run
was
the
a little
ball
different
here.
last week.
And also the Jets defense is legitimately tough. That's no joke. This is a much harder test than the way the Cowboys were playing last week in Jacksonville. I'm going to go under on all these props here. I'm going to expect a low-scoring game. Again, your Bills and Dolphins scared me last week, but I trust in, I'm a weather guy. I trust in the weather to be bad and slow this one down.
So just to show you how little offense, I think this is an indication there is not a receiver, running back, skill position player who has a prop of receptions more than 4.5.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very rare that not one person has a prop over 4.5. Most of them are 2.5, 1.5.
I mean, no one is playing better than Zay Jones right now. He is a revelation for the Jaguars.
4.5.
4.5, so maybe that's a safe over.
Maybe that's your safe over right there.
But still, why even mess with that? Why mess with Mother Nature, Maggie?
And that's what I always say. 855-212-4CBS. This portion of the show is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings app and use the code M&P for Maggie and Perloff to get in on the action. So that's what we're looking at tonight. Let's go to Lee. He's in a place that has much nicer weather than us. Lee's in San Diego. Lee, what do you think about the Chargers?
Well, I don't know where to start. I mean, first of all, the city cannot support an NFL, NBA, or NHL team ever.
Baseball only. You're a baseball town.
I'll tell you why. This city is a melting pot. And I had 20 years of season tickets for the Chargers. I used to watch this week to week, month to month, year to year, of everyone taking over that stadium, and the season ticket holders would sell their tickets to the other teams. And it's just, there's no way.
You got sick of it.
Padres, man.
Lee, I wonder what would have happened, though, if Justin Herbert had been right after. Well, he was right after Rivers. I mean,
what they had?
Could Herbert
18 years of a wonderful Philip Rivers? Their team was great.
Lee, thank you so much for the call, and sorry about the pain that this brings you, which I think it does.
It wasn't the quality of team because they had a lot of good teams.
And they had great teams, fun teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they
would
lose in interesting ways sometimes, but fun teams, people you could root for.
I mean, it is really, really nice weather-wise there. Jump on your bike, get outside. I do think that's a little bit of a factor.
Well, but Miami has good weather.
Have you?
It's a little different.
Do you think that fan base is solid right now? Have you been to that stadium recently? That's a mixed scene at best.
Well, I think that the popularity of Tua now, where I think that, I know they've lost 3 in a row, but I think the popularity of Tua brought a lot of the fan base back. I really do. I know it'd been dead for a while.
I'd be surprised if that stadium in Davies is rocking, honestly, because I've been there on a number of different occasions. I never got that really, really strong feel. It always felt like the stadium was in between two different places. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You're right. Traditionally, they have, and Tua is so exciting. And I think there's a lot of Dolphins fans who are energized. But again, it's not like it was with Marino. It just doesn't seem like they've been able to recapture that.
This is amazing. This is a real treat. Okay, so you asked me if I knew anybody who was a Chargers fan.
Yeah.
Because you claim that there are none, right?
None at all.
Okay, well, I have a friend who's a Charger fan, and he was good enough to call into the show. Eric Stengels, the former showrunner for, this little show you might have heard of. It was called David Letterman Show. Eric's on the phone now. He's done a million other things. Eric, if we read your whole resume, we'd be out of time. You're a diehard Charger fan. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, there are a few of us around, and I feel like I have to represent the very small gang that we have that have put our time and effort in. It's, what, I got to say, being a Charger fan is not much different than being a Bills fan, because
heartbreak.
It's heartbreak. It kills you inside. You need to see them win before you die. Like, it's not even like, it would be nice if they win. Like, you need to see it, or else what has all this been about?
But wait, Letterman's in New York. You are not in San Diego or Los Angeles, so it's something different.
I grew up in New York, and when I was a kid and when I first got into football, the Giants and the Jets sucked. They were terrible. They were unwatchable. And so kids were, picking their teams. This is when, the Steelers were good and the Cowboys were good and 49ers were good. And I remember there was one day that I watched a Giants-Chargers game, and Dan Fouts lit them up for 444 yards or something. And it was the greatest thing I ever saw. And I'm like, this is my team. And I'm like, they're gonna be great. I've got a successful team. My Steeler friends are gonna be jealous of me, and so.
Yep, all those Steeler fans really jealous as they have. I know they're a factor every year.
But wait, can I say something? Eric, I also was a Chargers fan. My whole generation, every guy I know loved that damn Fouts team.
Well, how do you not love Fouts? I mean,
we were in Philadelphia, but we didn't adopt them as our number one team. We had a local team. So how did you adopt them over your local teams?
Well, my local teams were terrible. The Giants and Jets were awful. Okay. It was they couldn't do anything. They weren't fun. You watched the Chargers at the time, and Don Coryell just sort of opened up the offense. And they had a guy, one of their wide receivers, Charlie Joyner, was 65 years old and had the the single bar. It was you didn't even know what you were looking at. It was 3D chess back then. And I bought into it.
Eric, did you ever try to, work the Chargers into any of your shows or projects? Because I was a pretty devout Letterman fan, but I don't know if I remember any Chargers bits, because you guys had a lot of athletes on through the years.
Yeah, I mean, so when we would make fun of teams that sucked at the time, it was the Mets. The Mets were the easy joke, or the Jets. So I didn't have to go after the Chargers because that really would have hurt. But I remember Drew Brees came on when he was in college, and I was like, I hope the Chargers get him, and they got him. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. We're gonna be really good. They got LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees in the same draft. This is going to be the Rechargers. This is going to be the best thing ever. And even that didn't work out.
They let him go.
There was one time my brother and I did a daytime show with Harry Connick Jr. for a couple of years. And for whatever reason, I don't remember how I became friendly with him, but Sean Merriman was in town, and we got him to do a walk-on. And that was just for me. That was to an audience of exactly one person during the day. Who's at home saying, oh my gosh, it's Sean Merriman? Nobody.
I'm assuming that audience was probably 90% women.
That's what I'm saying. It's we know exactly who our audience was, and it wasn't people who knew Lights Out.
Lights Out, yeah.
Quick question. You guys ever, you two sit around and talk about what it's like to get beat by Belichick so often?
Listen, I don't want to hear it, Perloff. Don't want to hear it. Eric.
The nicest already in my back. You don't need to twist.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm well aware.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, you calling in. I proved to the world that, yes, indeed, there are Charger fans, and they are
a few of us.
Devout.
Yeah,
They're passionate.
It's me. It's Mario Lopez. There's a couple of them out there.
That's serious star power.
My friend Ross.
Ross.
Oh, Ross. You should have led with that. We didn't know Ross was a fan too. Eric, have a great holiday. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
The absolute best. Eric Stengel. How about that?
That was wonderful, but I'm still not convinced. There's a groundswell. We all love the powder blue. We all love the uniforms. We all love Dan Fouts. We all love LaDainian Tomlinson. But there are very few loyal Chargers fans.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I get it, though, because if you hear people in San Diego, ownership did them wrong.
I told you that.
Yeah, I know. It's not without their reasons, you know. It's okay. It's justified. I just hope, although Eric said Charger fans kind of like Bills fans, he's right. Gotta see them win. It's not like, oh, another fun season here.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to put more pressure on the team, but they have to do it for all of our mental health.
How ugly is tonight going to be, Jags Jets?
I think it's going to be pretty sloppy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sloppy, which is kind of fun.
Which is crazy because I think the game means a lot. Thank you, Stu Kovacs, doing everything back there. Research, producing, running the board, being the weather update person.
Still didn't water the poinsettias, but whatever.
Finding out how many yards Tom Brady torched the Bills for all those years.
9,000.
That's a lot of yards. Thanks. See you tomorrow, everyone.
The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today. The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local radio stations, coverage of your favorite teams, live news from your hometown, and millions of podcasts on demand. Best of all, you can completely customize your listening experience. Follow topics you care about, like leagues and teams. Pause or rewind your local sports and news, and add shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
What's the strangest thing you're afraid of?
Tails without fur on them, such as rats or opossums.
I'm Larry Mullins, host of the podcast Your Weirdest Fears, where we dig into the crazy things you're afraid of. Everything from animal-people hybrids, people who get surgeries to look like an animal, to giant statues.
If I ever saw one of those giant statues, I probably would poop my pants.
Listen and subscribe on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast from.